Noswaith and a very good evening from a sun-kissed racecourse stadium. It seems an age, doesn't it, since we were with you last on Match Day Live. Wrexham haven't had a home game here for almost a month. Away fixtures in the diary plus the international break make it seem a long while since Wrexham have run out here. But in the time that has passed since, well, the weather has certainly got better. It's a spring-like evening in North Wales. Temperatures hitting 20 Celsius earlier today here, and a perfect platform for Wrexham to face up to Southampton tonight. A real six-pointer in the race for the playoffs as Tonza Eckert's informed side make the long trip to North Wales, fresh from a victory over Premier League leaders Arsenal in the FA Cup quarter-final on Saturday. There's much to discuss, much to catch up on, much to look forward to this evening. And as ever, I'm delighted to have Mia Roberts and Andy Morell back alongside me once again. Hello both, good to see you.
Thank you, Chris.
Belated happy Easter to you, Mia. Have you enjoyed yourself?
Yeah, it's been a nice Easter weekend, hasn't it? Weird not having actually football yesterday when it was meant to be, but I mean, what a day it is to have it today. You talk about it being an age since we were last here. It feels like it's been an age since we last had sun here when we've done Match Day Live, so I'm enjoying this one.
And Andy, the West Brom draw on Friday, shaking all that down, what were your reflections on the point from the Hawthorns?
Well, I think a lot of people have been a bit harsh on the first half performance. They were a bit slack and they were terrible. And I wasn't in that bracket. We conceded two, yes, but one was a deflected poor free kick for me, and the other one was a penalty which he got sort of sucked into a little bit. But the second half performance was fantastic, right at them, right in their faces, and that was more of what we have expected from this Wrexham team, and that's what we're expecting today against a high-flying Southampton.
So let's have a look then at the team named by manager Phil Parkinson for tonight's battle, because two changes are made by the Wrexham manager from the 11 who started at the Hawthorns on Friday. There's a return for Nathan Broadhead. He comes in for Zach Viner. That means Lewis O'Brien moves back from playing in the number 10 role to the number 6 role in central midfield alongside George Dobson. The other change is a return for Kiefer Moore up top. He hasn't started for Wrexham for over a month. You'd have to go back to Charlton away at the end of February for the last time the Welsh centre-forward had a starting jersey. But his appearance off the bench on Friday enough to persuade Phil Parkinson to give him the opportunity tonight. Sam Smith dropping to the bench. You'll also see Matty James makes a welcome return to the substitutes after his injury. Bailey Cadamarteri also named amongst the subs after scoring for Jamaica whilst on international duty a week or so ago. Mere two alterations then from Phil Parkinson. I think it's probably been one he's been keen to make for a little while, to bring Kiefer Moore back in. There was a run of matches where Moore and Smith were alternating. Smith's had a heavy workload in recent weeks. Yeah,
he certainly has, Sam Smith, and you sort of have felt for him over the past few weeks, because not only has he had to pick up all the minutes, but he certainly does get battered. I know Phil Parkinson touched on it after the game at West Brom, that he gets into some duels and some battles which more often than not he doesn't actually get the decisions in for as well, so that's just as tough on him there. But that front three really excites me today. It's the first time we've seen that front three since Preston at home on 29th of December, and we were talking about that back then, just how you sort of felt that was the three that were probably our best three. Obviously, Sam Smith's come in and done what he's done, absolutely, yes. But you can't forget what Kiefer Moore did for this club earlier on in the season as well. I'm just so excited to see him back starting again today.
And although not on the starting slate, Andy, Matty James' return to the bench, a huge fillip, I'm sure, for Phil Parkinson, because that central midfield area has been one where he's been a bit short of numbers in recent weeks.
Yeah, well, Viner's done great in there. Lewis O'Brien dropping in today in the same position. He's just going to be a load of experience back on the bench that we've really missed at times when we've needed to have that control of the ball. We felt that we were getting there with Sheaf and Matty James in there, and then both over the matter of a week disappear from your squad for good 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks and more. Then it's been really difficult. But the lads that have been in there have done great, but it's so good to have him back on the bench, and I'm sure that he'll get used at some point today, and then hopefully looking forward to that little run-in of the last 5 games. I'm still sure he's going to be really crucial.
So Phil Parkinson has made his selection tonight, and I had the opportunity just a couple of minutes before we came on air for Match Day Live to quiz the manager ahead of tonight's game with Southampton. Well, Phil, a beautiful night to be back at the racecourse for what is very much a promotion six-pointer.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've been here and it's great to be back.
Looking ahead to tonight's game, Southampton clearly on a terrific run, rather unbeaten in the last 15 matches, and that victory over Arsenal in the FA Cup at the weekend. They're clearly the informed team in the division. What have been the areas you've been focusing on in preparation for tonight?
Yeah, obviously a few different personnel tonight, what played against Arsenal, but all the players we know, similar in many respects to kind of the way Ipswich set up, building a 4 and then in the top 2/3 of the pitch it rolls into like a 3-4-3. So yeah, we've been used to playing against that. We know what we've got to do and it's about executing it on the night.
2 changes for your side tonight. First of all, Nathan Broadhead comes in for Zach Viner, which looks like Lewis O'Brien will drop back into the number 6 role.
Yeah, you know, Louis done great in there for us. Obviously, Broady got in dead leg against Watford, didn't miss training before the Sheffield United game, and then obviously he's been away in international duty. We didn't see him up to the day before we played West Brom, but I feel he's ready. He's chomping at the bit for tonight, and he's a key player for us.
I saw post-match after the West Brom draw, Phil, you were pleased with Kiefer Moore's performance off the bench. You've rewarded him with a start tonight, the first time he's started in just over a month. What will he give you as a different option?
Yeah, obviously with Kiefer, he's had the slight problem with his hamstring. He'd had a decent week leading up to the West Brom game, but I felt it was right for half an hour at the back end of the game. And tonight, I feel he's ready. I mean, what does Kiefer bring? I think everybody knows what he brings. He's a physical presence, but equally he can run in behind as well. And I think that's key for us tonight, that we impact the back line of Southampton. We look to play how we know we can do in terms of finding our 10s in good areas, but also make sure we give Kiefer the service he thrives on.
In previous years, Phil, this run-in has been an area that you've mastered managerially to the 3 promotions. How does that affect your thinking now as you plan to try and get a really strong finish to this season?
I think it's just a continuation for us of where we've been. You know, we've been in a consistent run of form for a while. You know, obviously motivation levels for both sides are going to be high because there's a lot resting on tonight. We can't hide away from that. But it's getting that physicality in our game, but also the calmness and the understanding of what's required throughout the 90 minutes.
It seems an aeon ago that the season was starting down at St Mary's with that opening day defeat right at the very end. Is there anything you could take from that looking ahead to tonight, or have the 2 teams evolved so much since then that there's little to look back on?
Yeah, I think more or less the second part, that obviously they've changed manager, a lot of players left, they've kind of changed it around quite a bit. We have ourselves obviously have evolved into the division. So, of course, there's a couple of players who'll still be out there, but in the main, there's quite a few different ones as well. So, but yeah, our memories of that game, we went down there and 1-0 up. We had a chance to kill the game off, didn't take it and got punished. But even in defeat, we took a lot of heart from the performance.
And just finally tonight, Phil, really good to see Matty James back on the bench to give you an extra option in central midfield.
Yeah, no, listen, Matty's had a tough time with his injury. It went on longer than we all wanted, but just to have his experience on the bench tonight is really important for us. Would I put him on after 10 minutes? No, but the last 20 minutes, if we need a calm head out there, then he's the perfect man for the job.
Thanks very much for joining us, Phil. All the best tonight.
Cheers.
Thank you. Wrexham manager Phil Parkinson talking me through his thoughts ahead of tonight's match against Southampton. This one an 8 o'clock kick-off, so around about 40 minutes time. Wrexham squaring up to Southampton. All the other championship matches taking place yesterday on Easter Monday, so this is the game in hand for Wrexham and Southampton. We'll take a little look at the league table as we go into this one in just a moment. But Phil was mentioning there in the interview, we were discussing the fact that Southampton beat Arsenal on Easter Saturday heroically and unexpectedly in the FA Cup quarter-final to progress to a semi against Manchester City. Now, we're going to have a first on Matchday Live tonight. We're going to have Andrew Morell, KC, and Mia Roberts, KC, appearing in the Matchday Live courtroom. Sadly, we couldn't get them any wigs. But one of them is going to make the case as to why that victory over Arsenal is going to give them a lift and be positive towards their chances of beating Wrexham tonight. And the other will see it very differently. So, Andrew Morell, KC, rise from your seat.
Oh, no.
Your Honour. Give us the case as to why it is that Southampton beating Arsenal in the FA Cup on Saturday is a lift for them coming into tonight's game.
Well, for me, it's very simple. They've beaten the best team in the country, in the league above. They'll feel 8 foot tall. The belief, the confidence, the momentum that keeps going in the group would be immense. Around the squad would be huge, and they'll feel like they can go on and beat anybody at any point. And when you're winning like that, tiredness, I feel, don't come into it, because you just want to play the next game, because you're going so well, so confident. I think you could just beat everybody.
Thank you very much. You can return to your seat.
Thank you, Horne.
Now then, Mia Roberts, KC, give me the case as to why it is that victory over Arsenal on Saturday is a bad thing for Southampton's chances tonight against Wrexham.
Well, listen, I think there's obviously aspects of both sides, but I do feel you can see it in the selection. He's made 6 changes. They didn't play 120 minutes, they only played 90. Of course, it's against the top side in Arsenal, but I still feel like that does have an effect. We saw it against with Wrexham and Chelsea. I know obviously Wrexham played 120, obviously came out of that side, out of that game the wrong side of the result, but we said it on the night against Chelsea. That felt in some ways like a win. Obviously we didn't progress, but everyone was still so buoyant, I felt, after that 120 minutes, and you sort of felt like going into Hull that we would have that extra bit, and it just wasn't the case. And Eckert's touched on it himself. You know, Southampton won that earlier round against Fulham, went into that West Brom game so under par, and I'm sure he'll be talking about that, but I think it's less physically, I think it's more emotionally. Sometimes it's just so difficult to come off the back and go again, and they'll have in the back of their minds as well, they've got now an extra few games to pick up in this run-in, which is just going to be so difficult. So, you know, there's only one way to decide it, and that'll be the final result tonight, I suppose, rather than what we say.
Thank you both. Well, we'll have 10,000 people who will be able to give the jury's verdict at about 10 o'clock this evening, and a scoreline which might help as well. So we will see if it is help or hindrance for Southampton's chances tonight. That outstanding victory over Arsenal on Saturday. Let's have a look then at the top of the Championship table as we go into this one, because Southampton are breathing down the necks of Wrexham in 6th place. That point at the Hawthorns on Friday took Wrexham back into the 6th position, which would bring them an end-of-season playoff opportunity. Southampton, though, loom just behind, as you can see on screen as well. And Derby County's victory yesterday very much keeps them in the conversation, a point behind Wrexham, although they have played an additional match. Norwich's fine run continues. They have really been one of the form sides of the division in the second half of the season. If they win all 5 of their games, could they yet be in contention? They might have left it a little bit too late. It's looking like Derby upwards for the battle for the playoffs, and look at that battle for 2nd position. 3 teams all on 72 points. Ipswich with the advantage at the moment with those games in hand, after Millwall won at Middlesbrough on Good Friday but then lost at home to Norwich on Easter Monday. Let's have a quick look at the bottom of the table. Not of interest in terms of tonight's 2 protagonists, but what it shows you is increasingly it's looking like 2 from 5 to join Sheffield Wednesday in League One next season. Oxford, Leicester, Portsmouth, West Brom and Blackburn in the shake-up. Portsmouth with that game in hand there will hope to try and take advantage of that. Most of those clubs drawing in their matches yesterday. That's going to be a bit of a scrap at the bottom. Mia, if I asked you for your 2 sides to join Sheffield Wednesday in League One next season, which way would you jump?
To be honest, I'd have to say the 2 currently in there. Sorry, Andy, I know you've got that Leicester persuasion, but just watching, you know, the other day, seeing some of those games, and I think Portsmouth might just have enough. Watching them go down to 10 against Oxford the other day, and still clinging on to that point, massive point against Oxford. You felt like that was a bit of a decider. I know we've still got a number of games, but and then Leicester dropping points to Sheffield Wednesday, you know, 1-0 down up till I think 84th minute, wasn't it? And I was sort of thinking Sheffield Wednesday were going to hang on and get 3 points there. So to me that speaks volumes. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Now, in recent years, Southampton have had a little bit of Wrexham in their DNA as well, because it was just over a decade ago that the Saints put together back-to-back promotions. They had a fall from grace after this time, but Southampton are a side who also know what it's like to go back to back. Here we can see they were runners-up in League One in 2011 behind Brighton and Hove Albion, now an established Premier League force of course, and in their first season back in the Championship, Southampton going all the way to the Premier League, following Reading up to earn their place back in the big time. So they are a club who have a history of Premier League football and of putting together back-to-back promotions. And Andy, their turnaround this season under Tonda Eckert suggests they're going to be extremely competitive in this run-in. No defeats in their last 15 matches across all competitions.
Yeah, they're going fantastically well. They've got a squad full of ability, and let's not put it, they were Premier League last year. And I think Will Still, you know, he started the season, he obviously got sacked earlier on, but he had to deal with the fallout from the Premier League, which is so difficult to do, and then start with a winning team, from getting new bodies in, wanting players that want to leave to get out. They just couldn't put the results together when he had got that cohesion after the window to then take it on a run. He gets taken out of the building, Tonda takes over, and then he's got a settled team. They can't go anywhere. The window's shut. They've got to get their heads down and play. And I think he's benefited massively from it. But they have got real quality in their ranks.
And we'll have a further look at the quality in the ranks at Southampton in a few minutes' time when we pick out Finn Azaz and compare him to Josh Windass tonight. And we'll also look at Eckert in comparison to Phil Parkinson. But tonight on Matchday Live, we have a first, our first ever viewer competition. You have the chance to win one of two Wrexham AFC Legends boxed shirts, personally signed by Mickey Thomas. This is a competition where you can get all the details via a QR code, which will appear on the screen in just a moment's time, but a wonderful prize which gives you the opportunity to earn a unique Wrexham souvenir. Mickey Thomas having personally signed this item, and the competition is open until midnight on Friday the 17th of April. We will then announce the winner for the match against Stoke on the 18th here on Matchday Live. So two winners will have the chance to win this wonderful box shirt and another one which is totally identical. All the terms and conditions are available with the entry form, which you will find through the QR code. And what we'll ask you to do is to select your favourite three pieces of merchandise from the ones that you will see appear on the screen. So select your favourite three, fill in the details, have a scan of the terms and conditions if you would like to enter the competition, and it closes, as I say, at midnight on Friday, April the 17th, so we can announce the winner in Matchday Live for the game against Stoke on Saturday, April the 18th. Thank you very much, Georgia, our assistant at Matchday Live, for handing me the wonderful box shirt. A lovely prize to win, including, of course, an Andy Morrell woven signature in the shirt.
Well, yeah, that's really random, isn't it? I don't know how I've got in that lot.
Well deserved. Amongst some of the greats of the club's history.
Well, yeah, and absolutely honoured and privileged to be part of that. And yeah, very, very kind of you to say so. But Mickey, what a legend, hey? He's getting everywhere at the minute, isn't he? He's running marathons and half marathons and all sorts for the club. Bless him, but what a guy, and he can't do enough for you, and such down to earth as well.
So good luck if you enter the competition. We wish you very well indeed, and here's hoping that you are celebrating when we're back here for the Stoke game on the 18th. Now right back on the opening day of the season. Tonight's two opponents locked horns down at the St Mary's Stadium, the opening outing of the campaign. Mia, it was a day when we look back, bathed in sunshine, a little bit like today, where Wrexham got out of the blocks well, and then of course had the heartbreak of two late goals, that wonderful free kick from Ryan Manning and Jack Stevens' late finish. When you look at how the team have evolved since then, what do you think some of the key differences are on how they're playing now versus to that opening day?
Well, I think it's good to look back on, isn't it? It feels like an eternity away. Obviously, it was really disappointing coming away from it with nothing. But at the same time, I liken it a bit to what I said about that Chelsea game earlier, in the sense that you sort of came away from it thinking, oh, I get a bit more about this Wrexham side now, and I feel like we can compete, because at that point in time you were thinking this Southampton team are going to be right up there in terms of automatics, not necessarily playoffs, with obviously the team they had under Will Still. But looking at where we were then, I think since then there's 7 players no longer even at the club that were in that squad. I think that's actually the same for Southampton that day as well, in all fairness. But they've come a really long way. I mean, listening to some of the player interviews, they talk about from the minute they came in the door they had that belief. But I think what's changed is now the fans have that belief. They've seen this team play some really good football and compete against the absolute best sides, not just in the Championship but also in the Premier League as well, when you look at cup competitions too. And I think that's brought that belief, and that's why it is different, on nights like tonight, where we're going into it hoping for 3 points and hoping to get more steady in those playoff positions.
Well, one of the players who Southampton recruited in the summer was Finn Azaz from Middlesbrough, and we can have a little look at him in profile now as we look at tonight's head-to-head. Josh Windass is up against him in tonight's graphic. Windass, a man in great form, of course, with goals in his last 2 matches. 12 goals for Windass so far this season from 40 appearances, 10 for Finn Azaz, the Irish international, who starred for Plymouth before doing very well up at Middlesbrough. Has been a shrewd acquisition, Andy. But if we start with Josh Windass, with the 2 that he's recently netted and the form he's been in, he's certainly proved his worth as a summer recruit for Wrexham.
Yeah, I think he's been fantastic, and it'd be interesting to see minutes played in that little bit there as well, compared to goals and ratios, etc. But I think he hit the crossbar in the first game against Southampton, cutting in, and he just bent one in the far corner. It just ricocheted off the crossbar, and then he scored one exactly like that last week at West Brom. Hit it from exactly the same place, and I don't think we'd want anybody on the pitch to be anywhere near that ball apart from him when he's in that situation. He's been so good. His quality is so good, so high, and not just goals, assists as well, and creation, drops into positions, and I think he's really learning the role that he's being asked at the moment, because I think he was more of a 10 off a main striker, but he's playing a 10 as a 2. He's working harder, and he's dropping really deep to get on the ball, and he's really enjoying his football at the minute as well.
He also seems to have mastered the understated celebration, a kind of throwback to Bobby Charlton in the 1960s, a quick handshake and back to the centre circle. What's that about, do you think?
Well, by all accounts, he didn't celebrate at Sheffield Wednesday as well. That was I think that is his celebration, if you like. So you take it the other way, and that's how he celebrates goals. Is Shearer was one arm up, he is, no, I'll just walk back to the spot. Very cool, very calm. It's what he's in the team to do, I suppose, and he just takes that as his job.
And Finn Azaz, Mir, we mentioned, has got a great Championship pedigree at Middlesbrough and at Plymouth. Where would you expect to see him popping up on the pitch this evening?
Well, for me, he's been a massive difference since Eckert's come in, and when Will Still was in that role, I think a lot of people were sort of writing Azaz off and not really having him as a Southampton player, top-end Championship player. But he's been given so much more freedom under Eckert, and part of that is he's just allowed him to drop deep, and Azaz loves that. He wants to be on the ball, he wants to get things going, and he works so hard for this team, and he makes things click, he changes things. He's got goals in him, as you can see from the statistic, gets assists. I thought he was brilliant against Arsenal on Saturday, and I'm sure he's determined, like many others in that Southampton side, to get them back up to the Premier League and prove himself at that level too.
Well, we've touched on Tonda Eckert, the German manager who replaced Will Still in November, and we can have a little bit of a further look now on the Southampton Supremo, because he's a man who is perhaps not well known in the English game. He arrived at St Mary's Stadium in the summer to coach the Southampton under-21s, and when Will Still was relieved of his duties in November, was given the job on a temporary basis, but so well did the German do that was made permanent in December. It's his first permanent managerial role. You'll see on screen there 1,059 first-team games managed for Phil Parkinson, just 30 for Tonda Eckert. He did have some time at Barnsley a few years ago as assistant to Gerhard Struber, but otherwise has spent most of his footballing education working with under-21 and under-19s teams, mainly back in his native Germany. And it's fascinating, isn't it? We're starting to see so many of these young managers come into the game who've started out as analysts and have had no playing pedigree at all. He played a little bit as an amateur, but that was it. And I saw that he'd actually started out as a 19-year-old doing some analytics for the German national team in Euro 2012. And this is a route we're starting to see travel. Will still obviously was unsuccessful at Southampton, but we've seen his brother go in at Watford and do well. And this young crop of managers built up very much on football analytics appears to be a real talent stream in the managerial world.
Yeah, what that gives you is detail, is how teams particularly play and how you'll want your teams to be set up against that. Like, and I've been in the same situation as him, thrust into a manager's seat, if you like, just to take the team for 4 or 5 games while we sort ourselves what we're going to do from above. And sometimes it goes really well, sometimes it doesn't. For him, he's just came in, given the players a little bit more freedom, a little bit of freshness, if you like, around the place. He's probably spoke to them all and dealt with them maturely in a way. As a young, he could probably relate to them a little bit more. And they've just kicked on and kicked off. And also, he did so well to start with. Then they had a little bit of a blip around Christmas.
They did, didn't they? Yeah.
But he's managed to come out of that, turn that around a little bit with that, whatever his detail of his data or whatever. But they've come out of it, and they've come out of it storming, and they are really making a charge for this league and these playoffs.
Southampton very much the informed team in the division. Whether you look back over the last 6, 8 or 10 games, they top the form table, unbeaten in all competitions in their last 15. This match, an 8 o'clock kick-off. Wrexham trying to build on the point they obtained on Good Friday. They headed to the Hawthorns to play West Bromwich Albion. Let's have a reminder of how this one played out in the Midlands.
That's a good ball to the far post, and Congo did well to claw that away. Here's Campbell right side to the area, pulls it back. O'Brien can't stop Diakite from hitting the shot, but he can't keep it down. But dangerous moments then. Congo did well, and that crowd to get anything on that, I thought. Here's Price now. Again, Styles is bombing up on the overlap. Kabore comes across and fouls him. Styles did well there, just to get a toe to it ahead of Kabore. This is a dangerous free kick, 15 yards out, left-hand side, ripped in, flats, and in! I think Hegerberg may have got a touch on that, I'm not sure, but it was drilled in. Really blocking those passing channels, but a good ball to Windass, good return ball, Kabore, edge of the area, left-footed shot, puts it well over, but that's much more like it from Wrexham. Bobby Madley gives the go-ahead, Dobson signals, rips it under the bar, and it's headed away, but attacked and slashed wide by Thomason. Corner of the 6-yard post, the ball swept in, and there's a penalty. Kabore had hold of it. Price, Madja sets himself, right-footed, steps up, scores. That's a good penalty. Okonkwo went the right way, but Madja drilled it into the bottom left corner. It's ugly, but Wrexham have got it up now to Thomason on the left. Good ball. Windass round the back of the defence, stands in the cross. No one in there, but a dreadful back header, and it nearly span in for an own goal. That was... His pass is intercepted, but Thomason's won it back and feeds it inside. O'Brien back to Windass, he shoots. Oh, what a goal! That's a game changer. 96 seconds into the second half, and Windass again. He doesn't celebrate because he's got a job to get on with. That's a cracking goal, though, isn't it? He gets decent distance, but a lot of height on them, so it's more the sort of throw that is hard to clear than that you're going to score from. Good distance on that, mind, and it nearly was one that we scored from. Drives inside, Windass stands it up, Smith, header, over the keeper and over the bar. But Dobson, great vision, and sorts it out with the wrong foot to Thomason, who pulls it back. Doyle pulls in the box, O'Brien flicks it on, Dobson! 2-2, West Brom wants offside! 2-2 here at the Hawthorns. Cleworth, good scrapping. Was his shirt being pulled? Not given. Excellent work by O'Brien to cover, but West Brom pick up the loose ball. Price nicks it beyond Kabore, does it for base, puts it in the box, and what a save by Okonkwo. Imre taking on Thomason. Thomason gets a foot in, but Imre rides it. Chance to shoot. It's blocked and falls kindly for Malumbi, who can't get the angle for the shot. Still the ref plays on. Diakite told to shoot, works it wide, great footed by Rathbone, and the referee says, I've given West Brom enough time. It's full time, and a frantic end to a frantic game.
Honours even then at the Hawthorns on Friday, a much improved Wrexham performance after the interval, enabling them to gather a point. Southampton in town tonight to see if Wrexham can improve on that as they return to home territory. We are, of course, in the final straight now, 6 games to go. And this is a phase of the season in recent years where Wrexham have really hit their straps. Let's have a look at Phil Parkinson's record here from March the 1st onwards over the past 4 seasons, because this should give Wrexham fans confidence that the man on the screen can navigate the ship successfully into the playoff places. In the near-miss season in the National League, you see at the top there, ending in 2022, 33 points from the last 15. A very strong finish to the National League season, which ended up with the title. Equally in League Two, with those 5 straight wins that finished the season with such power. And then last year again, from March onwards, that very solid average, over 2.2 points per game every season for the last 4, from March the 1st to the end of the campaign. Mia, that is some record when it comes to the pressure point of the season.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, really. Obviously, the difference is this year it's similar to that first Parkinson year, in the sense we're not going for those automatics. I mean, I suppose it's still on, I suppose. You never know.
Mathematically.
But it's going for those playoffs, and that's the difference. You know, if we do get to those playoffs, then you're looking at, can you still keep going? Can you go again? And that's the question that hopefully we're going to be asking. But yeah, when you look back at those past few years, it's been quite the run-ins, and that's what's got us the success, and that's where you've got to give credit to Phil Parkinson, those players, and all his staff.
Andy, although the personnel in the dressing room, at least in part, have changed from those previous seasons, there will still be a vibe in there, won't there, of belief that Parkinson and Steve Parkin and other members of the coaching staff can draw on to help the players to really think through mentally how they can get over the line this time.
Well, they'd have said to them, selling the club to the lads that have come in, we're going to push, and that's where we're going. This club's done it for the last 3 years, promotions back to back, and we're wanting to keep going and do it again. The key people are the players that have been here for a couple of Cleworths, etc., Okonkwo. They've all been in and around it, doing it at this point in the season for a couple of seasons now. They're going to be so important to the new ones that come in, because that belief will just rub off on them.
So Southampton next in town for Wrexham this evening. Can Phil Parkinson's side bank a win tonight? Well, tonight we have the opportunity to catch up with a player who represented both of these clubs. Barry Horne was a young player when he first signed for Wrexham back in 1984. He went on to great things with the Welsh national team and spent plenty of time in the Premier League, including for tonight's opposition. I had the chance to catch up with a man who'd be named in most people's all-time Wrexham 11 shortly before Matchday Live came on air tonight. To have you with us this evening on Matchday Live. Thanks very much for joining us as we look ahead to this game between 2 of your former clubs. First of all, Barry, taking us right back to when you first joined Wrexham, only half an hour or so away from your hometown of Baghilt, up on the Dee estuary. But you arrived here not through the traditional route perhaps of an apprenticeship, but actually having done a chemistry degree at Liverpool University. Did you get a lot of stick when you first joined the club?
Predictably, yes. Obviously, that's the nature of a football dressing room. I guess any sporting environment, it would have been the same. An element of suspicion, and certainly an element of mickey taking. But I say this in all respects of the respect that footballers have. Whatever you're talking about, all they care about is what you do on the pitch. If you take care of business on the pitch, all of that pretty soon gets forgotten.
So a Bachelor of Science and a Master's behind you. You arrived here in June 1984, straight into the first team though, a couple of months later, in what became an epic season for the club with those European adventures. Talk us through those early months in red for you, Barry.
Well, it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I came on a week's trial. We played. I was playing for Real at the time. I'd done my bit as captain of Liverpool University. We won the UAU, the Universities Cup. Then I went to play for Real semi-professional. We played Wrexham in the Welsh Cup, which I have a lot to be grateful for that tournament. Because then, of course, I got on the back of that, I got a trial for Wrexham. Bobby Roberts signed me. The shortest contract negotiation in history at the end of my trial week. Then within weeks, we were playing Porto. And I just thought this was amazing, absolutely amazing.
European Cup Winners' Cup first round. We've
Yep.
got a chance on screen to remind ourselves of that incredible goal that you scored late on out in Portugal. But just as a reminder for fans less familiar with the story, Wrexham winning the first leg 1-0 against all odds here in a bouncing racecourse. But heading out to Portugal, no one really gave Wrexham much of a prayer, did they?
Unsurprisingly, no. They had half the Portuguese national team playing for them. There was one guy in particular, Futre, who was going to go on to be a megastar. It was going to be a formality. We were going to get knocked out, despite having taken the lead here in front of a full cop, by the way, as I stand and look at the new cop going up.
And then, Barry, that famous night in Porto, late on in the game, Wrexham had been heroic. They'd been under the pump for a lot of the game, but Porto were heading through. Wrexham desperate to score, which would have got them through on the away goals rule. John Muldoon, on as a substitute, enters the fray, gets away down the right, puts his cross in, and you make your run. Pick it up from there.
Yeah, there's nothing new in football, is there? That was a classic breakaway counter-attack goal from one end of the pitch to the other in, 14, 15 seconds. And John Muldoon, give him massive credit, put the ball right on the money. And then the Porto players have gone from thinking they'd done it, quite understandably, to realising that was it, they were out, to a lowly fourth division club from the British pyramid. So it was fantastic. It was an amazing experience. Unfortunately, we couldn't reproduce that type of performance week in, week out, and it wasn't a great season in the league. But it was a fantastic first season for me. Coming first year as a professional footballer.
And having made such a great start, Barry, I think you only missed 2 league games in the next 3 years for Wrexham before you got your move to Portsmouth.
I think I missed 2 games full stop, and I got sent off for fighting, which probably isn't a massive surprise. And I was really, really gutted. It was like, we were away to Southend, and it'd been going on all afternoon, and I just lost it. Missed the second to last 2, third last games of the season, and then didn't miss another game then for 2 years. So that's something I'm incredibly proud of, actually. And then, of course, the year after we played Roma in another fantastic experience, and that was all leading to me leaving at the end of my 3rd year.
And you got that move to Portsmouth, £70,000, Alan Ball signing you for Pompey. What was it like to make that transition? That was a long way from home.
Yes, I had a chance to go to Gillingham, which I think was even further, and turned that down, not knowing anything about Portsmouth. So for a while, I was, a couple of days, I turned Gillingham down and didn't know anything about Portsmouth. And then all of a sudden, the chance to go to Portsmouth, they were in the old First Division, the Premier League. It was Alan Ball, a hero of mine, one of the Holy Trinity at Goodison Park, the title-winning team. And again, contract negotiations were very, very brief. I drove all the way down there, signed the contract, drove back. And if I thought the ribbing and the Mickey taking in the Wrexham dressing room was bad, what I got down there was on a completely different level, because the dressing room was full of hardened professionals: Paul Mariner, Kenny Swain, Noel Blake. A lot of your younger viewers won't even know who they are, but trust me, they were proper
serious pros,
yeah. But again, got stuck in, and then wasn't one of the first games, but quite early on, I scored the second in a 2-0 win at the Dell. So that was that certainly. I was already in the team by then, but that certainly cemented my place at the club, if you like.
Now, you talk about ribbing, Barry, but you then made a move which hadn't been made for over 40 years, because you were transferred from Portsmouth to Southampton. Southampton's record signing back then, £700,000 move in 1989. What sort of reception did you get from the Portsmouth fans, and what sort of reception did you get when you arrived at tonight's opposition, Southampton?
Well, it was actually worse than that, because I'd scored at the Dell. I won every single Player of the Year award at Portsmouth. As you said, I was the record signing, Basically, I got hate mail from both sets of fans back in the day when you actually got physical mail.
Wow.
I don't know what it would have been like on Twitter or social media these days.
Lively.
But it's fine though, because you can just chuck a letter bin, can't you? And that's it. You just forget about it. And then I made my debut. It was a good Southampton team. We finished in my first full season. We finished 6th behind Everton, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs, the usual suspects back in the day. Letizia, who's here today, Alan Shearer, Neil Ruddock, some Tim Flowers, some good players. And again, I just had to get my head down and work my way through it. And in the end, I did that. Didn't miss many games there. The first 2.5 years were fantastic under a bloke called Chris Nicholl.
Remember him well.
Centre half, Northern Ireland, Aston Villa. Yeah, brilliant bloke. And then when he left, which was the beginning of my 3rd year, things just started to unravel. We had a new manager who had some really weird ideas, and that was time to leave. But I enjoyed my time there. I enjoyed my time at Portsmouth. I enjoyed my time at Southampton, and obviously I'm forever grateful to Wrexham and Portsmouth for the chance they gave me. And of course, Wrexham was I support 2 teams. I've got to be honest with you. But Wrexham at the time was my second club, and I was here as a schoolboy, so I've got a lot of affinity. And then latterly, I was honoured to be to represent the club at board level as well. So I've got a lot of connections with this club.
And you had your time, of course, at the PFA as the chairman as well. So you've certainly had a rich and varied career in the world of football, Barry. Looking at tonight's game, Wrexham and Southampton going head-to-head, potentially for one playoff place. We'll have to see how results go in future weeks. Yeah. But at the moment, this is looking like the good old-fashioned 6-pointer. How would you compare the different credentials of the two sides as they go for the run-in now?
Well, firstly, I would say anyone who bets or tries to predict what's going to happen in the next 5 or 6 weeks in the Championship is a fool, because there will be ups, there'll be downs, there'll be shocks, there'll be surprises. I think Southampton are in an incredible vein of form. I think, including the FA Cup game, which is fantastic. It's 3 draws and 10 wins in 13 or something like that. Wrexham are up and down a little bit, a bit stuttering, playing well in patches, not so well in others. So if Southampton hadn't just beaten Arsenal in the FA Cup quarter-final, I would have them possibly as slight favourites. But I think that has to have an effect on what they do tonight. And I've said this to all my friends: if Southampton come here tonight and beat a very, very good Wrexham team, you've got to take your hat off to them, because that is some performance. So I fancy Wrexham tonight. And it would be a massive, massive, massive win for them.
Well, Barry, thanks so much for joining us on Matchday Live. We know you're often to be heard on the airwaves still in the local media covering Wrexham. Congrats again on a fantastic career, both for Wrexham and, of course, at Southampton. Former Wales captain and Wrexham and Southampton midfielder Barry Horne giving me his thoughts ahead of tonight's game, both in terms of Southampton's chances of upsetting Wrexham on their home patch and reflecting on his glorious career both for Wrexham and for tonight's opposition at Southampton. Don't forget, you can be fully involved in tonight's game by featuring on our fan wall, both on the big screens inside the stadium and on the virtual big screen which appears during the periods of play on this Matchday Live link on YouTube. All the details are on the screen, including the QR code that enables you to take a selfie and tell us where you are watching tonight's game from, whether that's just round the corner in Wrexham or on the other side of the world. And you might feature on the screens inside the stadium or on the virtual screens in use during the first and second half. If you're just joining us on Matchday Live tonight, then the team news is that Phil Parkinson makes 2 alterations from the starting 11 who drew with West Brom on Friday. Nathan Broadhead makes a return for Zach Viner, a move which will see Lewis O'Brien deployed more defensively in midfield alongside George Dobson. Whilst up top, Kiefer Moore makes his first start for over a month, coming in for Sam Smith to lead the line. There's a welcome return on the bench for Matty James, out injured for quite a while now, but he's back into contention, and he gives Phil Parkinson an option off the bench. If you joined us earlier and heard Phil talking to me earlier at the top of the programme, you'll hear that Phil said that he wouldn't necessarily use Matty if he picked up an injury in the first 10 minutes, but perhaps for the last 20 or so, James is an option off the bench. As you can see, the players are making their way out this evening. It's been a gorgeous sunny day here in North Wales, so perfect pitch conditions for these two playoff rivals. Southampton, the informed team in the league, of course. 15 matches unbeaten in all competitions and through to the FA Cup semi-finals, having beaten Premier League leaders Arsenal on Saturday. Tonda Eckert's side arrive here full of confidence in North Wales and are one of Wrexham's principal rivals now for one of those coveted spots in the Championship playoff race. 6 games to go then this season. Time to fasten those seatbelts and hold on tight. Can Wrexham take a big step tonight in this 6-pointer against the Saints towards a place in the playoffs? Or will Tonda Eckert's side come north and show Wrexham just why they are the informed team in the league, who is making the nation stand up and notice under German rookie manager Tonda Eckert? If you haven't yet got your iFollow pass, head to wrexhamafc.co.uk/live. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you again at half-time, where I'll be joined by Mark Swales, Jenny Sugarman and Ava Suckley from our women's setup to discuss their fantastic double winning season. We look forward to your company here then. Same link on YouTube in about 50 minutes time. Bye for now.
scored for Southampton in the 12th minute, number 27, Cameron. scored for Southampton in the 22nd minute, number 4, William Downs. Mae'r Managerial swyddog yn neud yn nodi fydd yn ar lleiaf swm o 4 munud. Ychwanegol, the fourth official has indicated there will be a minimum of 4 minutes, and in time, that's 4 minutes. All at Wrexham AFC were saddened to learn of the passing of Stephen Faulkner, a much loved and respected member of our community and a passionate supporter of Wrexham. Steve looked after the director's box at the club from 1991 until retiring to Spain in 2010. His passion for Wrexham never faded. He rarely missed a televised match and always made sure his visits back to Wales included a home game. Steve leaves behind not only his wife Carol, daughter Joanne, son Christopher and his extended family, but many friends. He was well known to staff, fellow supporters and all who had the pleasure of knowing him at the club. The club is also saddened to hear of the passing of Stephen Parrott, a lifelong Wrexham fan and season ticket holder for decades, despite living in London. Stephen Parrott was a former shareholder of the football club, which he inherited from his father, Reg, and one of the first ever members of the London Reds. Stephen was an eminent criminologist at the prestigious research-intensive institution, Brickbeck, University of London, located in Bloomsbury. Fondly remembered for his perpetual belief in the team, even in our dark days of decline and struggle, Stephen will be sadly missed by the London Reds, his friends in the Bamford Suite, the wider fan base, and of course, his family. Rest in peace, Stephen.
Half-time here at the Stoke Kairat. It's Wrexham 1, Southampton 2. A helter-skelter first half. Thoroughly entertaining for the 10,000 inside here, but Wrexham are going to have to come from behind if they're going to get anything out of this game. Southampton started this one on the front foot and took the lead in the 12th minute. A well-worked move ultimately resulting in Kariuki Matsuki finishing past Arthur Okonkwo. In truth, Wrexham not tight enough to the Japanese forward and trailing early in the game. It got worse in the 22nd minute. Flynn Downs capitalising after Wrexham failed to clear a corner. Wrexham 2 down and only halfway through the opening period. The home side started to find their stride a little bit after that. Josh Windass pulling one back in the 33rd minute. His third goal in as many games after a flick on from Kiefer Moore. Windass running into space and finishing neatly. Both sides had opportunities before the first half was out. Kyle Larin, the Canadian centre forward, almost making it 3 after he outwitted Dom Hyam, but his finish was over the bar. And Nathan Broadhead going close on a couple of occasions, including with dancing feet in the box when he couldn't quite get his shot away. But Southampton have shown plenty of promise in attack. They look a threat every time they come forward. But Wrexham still in this one, thanks to that man, Windass. Andy Morell and Mia Roberts have been watching a breathless opening 45 minutes. Andy, how have you seen it?
Well, it could be a lot worse. I think they had the double crossbar on the headers. They've got in time and time again down the sides of us with their pace, and the balls across just haven't found their men. But we've found a way of just hanging in there somehow. They've looked so good going forwards, the pace that they have. But we've got a goal back, which has given us a big lift. And we look strong when we've got good quality into Kiefer. We can play around him when we look like we can pick him out a little bit. But we just haven't done it enough. And we've just got to make sure in the second half we shut the door a little bit better behind us and we can create chances.
Mia, if we look back at Watford and again on Good Friday at West Brom and tonight, there's a bit of a pattern here of Wrexham struggling to find their rhythm in the first half of games. Why do you think that's happening?
I'm not sure. I don't think they'll really be able to put a finger on it, because I think if they could have, you'd like to think it would have been sorted after Watford or after West Brom. So it's difficult to see it sort of happen again. And I said it for the previous few games. You sort of felt like when they have been having these slow starts, it just feels like we've been waiting for a better team. I know Watford, obviously we didn't pull it back that day, but a better team to just sort of have Wrexham out of the game by half time, and that's one of the biggest things I could say about that first half is the fact we're still in it. And Windass getting that goal was absolutely massive. It was just that one bit of quality that we really saw in that first half from a Wrexham point of view, but they've certainly grown back into it, and you've got to give them full credit to that for again having that mental resilience. 2-0 down against a top team like Southampton, to actually go, no, we're still in it and we're going to try and turn it around again, still in that first half. I think there's 22 points already this season from losing positions for Wrexham, so they've done it before. You've just got to hope they can do it again.
Just briefly, Andy, what does Phil Parkinson need to tighten in the second half to stop Southampton having so much threat?
It's just at source. We've just got what we've been doing is we've been pressing all right, but the longer ball over, we've just not dealt with it. First ball and second balls, we've just got to get. If we pick those second balls up, we win the first one to start with and pick the second ball. It nullifies any chances they've got of countering us. So if we do that, then I think we have a lot more of a foothold in the game to start with, and then we can get Kabore. We haven't seen him at all in this first half. We've got to get him on the ball and go in at his man, and he's been a big outlet for us. Let's get him on the ball.
Andy Meir, thank you very much for now. Have a little break before the second half. We're going to change gear now at half-time here on Matchday Live, because we're going to switch our focus to the Wrexham women's team. They've had an outstanding season, double winners, winning the Adran Premier for the very first time in the club's history, knocking Cardiff off their perch and doing the same in the Adran Trophy. I'm absolutely delighted to have not just 3 special guests, but 2 special trophies with us at half-time. Welcome to Mark Swales, Director of Women's Football, Ava Suckley, centre forward and occasionally left wing back, and Jenny Sugarman, head coach. Thank you very much for joining us all. First of all, Mark, how have the celebrations been? Have you celebrated well and hard?
They've been very good. We've had 2 really good weeks. I think coming here at the racecourse with nearly 3,000 people here supporting, and winning the league 2 weeks ago was amazing. And I think it's fair to say that we had a good evening that night, celebrating that. And then obviously this weekend with the trophy lift, again, slightly less than the week before, but what the girls have achieved this year has fully deserved a real celebration over the last 2 weeks.
Jenny, what's your overriding emotion been as the dust has settled a little bit on these 2 magnificent trophies?
I think it has to be pride. We've spoken a lot about the fact that when I arrived halfway through pre-season there was a lot of work to do, and we always said from the beginning that we wanted to be competitive, without perhaps saying too much about what that exactly looked like, but being competitive the whole way through the season, being in the mix when trophies were handed out at the end of it, and to be stood here with 2 is pretty surreal.
Ava, you played throughout the season. You were also obviously on the staff last year as well. When you look specifically at the Adran Trophy final and the league decider against Cardiff, which of the 2 games was tougher to play in?
I think they were both completely different games. We went into the Adran Trophy final being like, we hadn't beaten Cardiff yet this year, so I think it was just to kind of put it all out on the table, everything's to play for. So, and then I think the drama of the game was quite good. Going behind twice, and then obviously winning on penalties was really good. And then the game here, obviously, with the crowd we had and everything, and then the way in which we beat them. And I think, just basically summed up our season and how well we've been working and how much effort we put in, and it's good to get away with like a win. So yeah.
Thinking about the league decider, when you went 1-0 down in that game, what was the message amongst the players on the pitch at that point?
I think it was just, don't get your head down. We know what we need to do to win the game, and we've done a lot of prep for it. So I think that it was just maintaining that message and just trying to get back in the game, basically, yeah.
Mark, we know now that one of the prizes, as well as the trophies, is that place in the Champions League. Can you just talk us through what lies ahead in terms of when the draw is, when the match might take place, who Wrexham might face, and how it all works?
Yeah, for sure. So the draw is late June. We will probably go to Nyon in Switzerland, to the UEFA headquarters where the draw will take place. Round 1, qualifying round 1, basically is a 4-team tournament, 2 semi-finals and a final. The dates are the 22nd of July and the 25th of July. So 2 games on the 22nd. The winners of 2 games will then play for that first place, because only 1 team goes through the qualifying round 1. And then it's repeated again in qualifying round 2. 4 teams come together. So we're excited of what that may bring. I mean, it could be teams from Poland, Bulgaria, Cyprus, Luxembourg. We're just looking forward to what could be, an exciting time for Wrexham and the women's team in Champions League football.
So Jenny, just to break that down then, you're going to be heading off to Nyon to take part in the UEFA Champions League draw less than a year after you arrived at the Rock and there was no electricity. Does that feel a bit surreal?
Yeah, completely. There was no electricity. There was camping torches to go to the loo, which sounds crazy again now. We've done an incredible amount of work over this season, building the team, recruitment-wise, the staff team, the identity of how we want to play, of how we want to work. And I think probably that's one of the biggest things about it is when you see, particularly the game here, coming from behind, similar to the cup final. We've had to do that over and over again this year, and that comes from the resilience, the belief, and the culture that's been created in this team. So yeah, it's been quite a journey, isn't it?
Absolutely has. When you look back on the season, are there one or two moments in certain games that you think that was a turning point?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first game of the season when we found ourselves 2-0 down early on, Kez had gone off injured in the first minute, and it was pouring with rain, and I'm thinking, oh my word, what's going on here? So to come back and win that game so well, 5-2 emphatically, massive belief, and I think that showed that day the character that this team could have. And then I think we probably also have to look at the game away in Cardiff in January, that obviously we didn't win. We conceded such a late goal. But I think that is a moment of, we know we've still got work to do and there's some areas that we still need to improve, but the people that I saw around me that day were completely committed to doing that. And then I guess the third one probably has to be the cup final, because I'm not sure that we win that trophy without the first one, because the level of belief that we got from that and confidence that we got from that, but also how it potentially dented the belief in our rivals.
Ava, in the dressing room, what was feeling different by the end of the season versus earlier in the season?
I think it was just the confidence that we'd already gone out and beaten the best of the best who were in Wales already. So I think that just being able to win those games, and then we had the confidence for it. So I think that we've got the talent. So as long as we play well, then everything works. Then yeah, you're hoping for a win, aren't you? So.
And how do you feel about potentially playing in the Champions League in a few months' time, personally?
Yeah, it's crazy, especially with Wrexham, hometown. So why are they in the Champions League? I don't know, but yeah, hopefully we can get as far as possible. Yeah.
Awesome possibilities ahead. I can see the players are just coming up for the second half, so we'll wrap shortly. But Mark, if I was to wind the clock forward 3 years, where would you like the club to be then? What else would we have seen in terms of trophies or aspiration?
I think the aspiration is to just continue doing what we're doing. Is the performances that the players put on the pitch shows the hard work that goes on behind the scenes. We need to start building the infrastructure. I've said it before, that Wrexham requires an academy to continue the likes of Ava and Lily. We really need to drive that for us. From a first team point of view, we just want to keep competing. We want to keep pushing the league as hard as it can to professionalise. And yeah, just as we've done, is just bring more and more success to Wrexham and the women's game in North Wales.
Awesome. Well, huge congratulations again to the three of you. 2 fantastic trophies. You've created a lot of special memories for everybody here this season, and all the very best for the Champions League draw. We're excited about what's next. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jenny Sugarman, head coach, player Ava Suckley, and director of football Mark Swales from the Wrexham women's section, joining us at half-time here on Matchday Live. We're about to get underway for the second period then. Wrexham 1, Southampton 2. Please join us again, same link on YouTube, for all the full-time reaction in about 50 minutes' time. Bye for now.
Substitution for Southampton, leaving the field with a 23, Samuel Ngozi. He's been replaced by number 13, Rio Shienza. Substitution for Southampton, leaving the field number 3, Ryan Manning. He's being replaced by number 34, Wellington. Also leaving the field number 9, Sion Warren. He's being replaced by number 11, Ross Stewart. Substitution for Wrexham, leaving the field, number 15, George Dodson. He was replaced by Matty James. Making Brom Leeds, he was replaced by Ollie Rathbone. And left the field number 12, Issa Kabore, he was replaced by number 47, Ryan Longman. First goal for Southampton in the 82nd, number 11, Ross Stewart. Southampton, number 10, Gilzes. Substitute for Wrexham midfield, number 19, kicking ball, who's replaced. He's replaced by Sam Smith. Substitution for Southampton, entering the field number 15, making work with the midfield number 27, Cameron Matsky. Substitution for Southampton, entering the field number 19, Cameron Archer, who's replacing number 10, Gilzes. obviously got to be running in a maximum minute of whenever the fourth official has indicated there will be a minimum of 5 minutes added time. That's 5 minutes. Thank you all for your fantastic support. Like the dog Penarth, Stoke Arras, they reopened account at Henrik's site. The official attendance at the Stoke Arras, 10,547. Our grateful thanks to the 1,230 away fans, and we hope you have a safe journey home. You begin next time at Stoke Arras, Aberdeen now Red or Everest and Everett Stoke City, Guinevere Gunter and Tree. A reminder the next home game with the Stoke Arras is on April 18th when Stoke City are the visitors for our Sky Bet Championship fixture, which kicks off at 3 p.m. Going to follow up on the stadium, and we're going to do this after the bow the signal home towards supporters. Please do take care when leaving the stadium, and we'll see you again on the 18th. Not like that.
Full time here at the racecourse. It's finished Wrexham 1, Southampton 5. And the nation's in-form football team showed exactly what they are about this evening. Wrexham trailed 2-1 at the interval and came out with positive intent at the start of the second half, creating opportunities and asking questions of the Southampton back line. But when Canadian Kyle Larin was able to take advantage of a loose pass from Lewis O'Brien, that pretty much closed the door on Wrexham's hopes this evening, making it 3-1 on the hour. In truth, if Kiefer Moore's header, which ricocheted back unluckily off the post a few minutes after that, had gone in, then maybe Wrexham would have had a lifeline, but it wasn't to be their night as the ball bounced back off the woodwork and was cleared. As we got into the last 10 minutes of the game, Southampton struck with a double punch. In the 82nd minute, Ross Stewart's neat finish took it to 4-1 on as a substitute, the former Ross County striker, making no mistake inside the box. And less than 60 seconds after that, the impressive Finn Azaz, who we'd called out as a key man for Southampton pre-match, made it 5 after a bit of chaos in the Wrexham box. It was a tough night for the home side. Southampton showing that they are serious contenders in this battle for playoff places and showing exactly why Premier League leaders Arsenal couldn't cope with them on Saturday. Impressively managed, quick on the break, neat in their approach play. They asked questions of Wrexham all night, and in the end there weren't enough answers from Phil Parkinson's side as they suffer a heavy home defeat against playoff rivals. Still very much in the conversation, the Red Dragons, when it comes to the end of season battle for places 3 to 6, but this undoubtedly puts a dent in those hopes as Southampton leapfrog them in the Sky Bet Championship table. Andy Morrell and Mia Roberts have presided over that one. Now, before the match, we put you into the virtual Match Day Live courtroom,
haven't I?
where a strong case was put forward by Andrew Morrell, KC, that the confidence and momentum from the victory on Saturday would do Southampton well tonight. Mia made the counter-argument that it might have taken focus away from this evening, and I remember Barry Horne saying similarly when I interviewed him pre-match tonight. But Andy, in the end, it was that perspective about momentum and confidence that came through. That was a side tonight that you could see was absolutely brimming with confidence and brimming with ability as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the squad, isn't it? It's so strong
Very
in
much
depth.
so.
You know, they've changed 5-6 people today, and they've still looked as strong, if not stronger, than they did on the weekend. You know, pace, power, quality on the ball, finishing, just a real way of going about their business, if you like. But what I loved about it was their work ethic off the ball with, you know, these lads that have got quality, abundance. They're working their socks off as well for the team, and when you've got that little recipe, you're going to win a lot of football matches. They're the best team that have come here by some way for me, you know. But and you look at the two teams, look at Leicester who have come down as well at the same time, and there's just chalk and cheese, isn't it, between the two of how they're playing and how they're going about their business at the moment. They're going to be strong candidate. You do not want to get them in the playoffs if we can get there eventually. Yes, it's anomaly for us. We're not used to this sort of feeling. We've come up against a very strong team there, and we'll just have to lick our wins. Sometimes you just got to hold your hands up and go, we'll beat them by a better team, and we'll just move on to the next one.
Mia, a poor Wrexham performance or just a very strong away performance? How did you see that one shake down?
I'd go with poor Wrexham phases. I think first half again started a bit slowly, which is again a massive frustration. We touched on it at half time. You know, it's not the first time we've seen that, and I think that's, you know, going to probably be a bit of in the talk in this week now, going into Birmingham, where the pressure's going to be on these players now to get into St Andrews and really be at Birmingham from the start, because you just feel like we make life a little bit difficult for ourselves at times, and I think that's the frustration, because, you know,
you mean sluggish first half performances?
Yeah, in terms of that, and you know, like in this first half when Josh Windass gets that goal back and Wrexham suddenly start clicking again, and you're thinking, why do we find ourselves in this situation when we know we've got the ability, we know we've got the players that have the quality, and I think that is the frustration. But, you know, it's all about that response now. But like Andy says, I think you've got to give Southampton an awful lot of credit tonight. I thought they were superb. I thought from minute one they had so much control of the game, whether that was, you know, in terms of their actual play or when that ball went out of play, you know, slowing things down at the right moments, picking their moments to speed it up and just control that tempo and the fluidity across, you know, not only that front four, but, you know, just the full ability through the whole 11 really was just a different level.
Wrexham struggled to deal with Southampton, I think, Andy, all night, didn't they? Going forward, they had so much pace and movement, fluency. But on another night, Wrexham might have had 2-3, and if that Kiefer Moore header goes in, suddenly you're back to 3-2, the crowd's behind you. I think even if it had gone in, though, Southampton were going to remain a threat on the break. And the question is, even if you got it back to 3-2, could you have kept the door closed as you pursued the equaliser?
And I think that was the case. You know, we were lucky to be in it at half time, really. We got back to 2-1, but they could have been out of sight with the double header against the crossbar and a couple of flown crosses across the box that didn't actually get to the man that was coming into the box. But we hung in there, and you think, all right, now second half, we've been good in our second halves, can we go again? And we did. We were coming forward, and I felt that we had a little bit of a grip in that first 10-15 minutes of that second half, and it was, can we get that one? And then it's just an unfortunate pass. Dom Heim steps in to give him a better angle, and the pass isn't great. Larin just nicks it, and he's in on goal, and it's a great finish, and it just took the stuffing out of us a little bit, really. And we tried huffed and puffed a little bit after that. We're getting in okay positions. Yeah, we hit the bar and stuff, but they hit the post a couple more times, didn't they, as well? So it could have looked a lot worse than it actually is at 5-1.
It felt a little bit, Mia, to me, like watching a team that were new to the level and were learning lessons really quickly. So the first goal, the quick interchange of passing, no one quite tight enough defensively, bang, 1-0. The second, a clearance which at a lower level might go out to the edge of the box and then it gets blocked or someone smashes it over the bar, bang, bottom corner, 2-0. The Larin goal, one misplaced pass, through he goes, taken, 3-0. No mischance, no scuffed finish.
Yeah.
It looked tonight like Southampton just had that extra level, which is, of course, a combination, I would say, of technical quality, but also confidence and an ability to trust yourself in whatever facet of play you're in, that you're going to do the right thing.
Yeah, and it just comes down to them just being so clinical in those moments. And listen, for me, it just makes the mind boggle that how when Eckert came in, they were 21st in the Championship. Like that's how I look at this team, and I just think, how on earth? But I suppose you could say the same thing about a bit of a Leicester when you look at the squad they're putting out week in, week out, and just thinking, how are they not picking up points? How is this team not performing better? But exactly that. I think this Southampton team, it's so difficult to sort of prepare for, because I think they're so adaptable. We spoke about it earlier about them being fluid and flexible, and it's almost they sort of respond to their opposition, and as then the opposition, it's difficult to sort of go, well, how do we actually cause this team problems? Because they seem to have an answer to sort of every question that any opposition actually posed to them. You can watch tonight and watch their game against Arsenal on Saturday, two completely different setups, but absolutely executed to absolute perfection, and that leaves managers going, well, how do we sort of combat this? And I'm sure that's going to be the question now for many, including Pep Guardiola, over the next few weeks.
I think the difference in the squads, because I was looking at our bench before the game and think, oh, Matty James is back on there. We look really strong to make changes if we need to. You look at their bench and they are quality again on another level, really. But they work so hard for the team. They can play any which way if they want. They're so fluid in there. They know where each other the next pass is going, but they also work back so hard. I think they're an incredibly talented team, and it just needed a little bit of maybe an arm round the shoulder of a couple of them to get them on side, but also a bit of confidence. Like you were saying, you win a couple of games and you've seen what these players can do.
You feel that if they'd had that manager at the start of the season, they'd have won the league with 100 points, don't you? Because that is...
Yeah, you could say that, but I think there was so much to deal with in that summer for them.
Sure.
That you can't say that, because the manager's got to deal with huge bodies and players that want to play in the Premier League and want to be moving. But off the back of that, they've got to want to be here as well. Do you know what I mean? And they've got to find a way of playing out there at the same time as juggling these players off the pitch. That's a very difficult thing, and for a young manager like he is, that's a very difficult situation to be thrown into.
No, I completely get the point, Andy, and you explained the context as well pre-match, that was what Will still had to deal with. I guess what I'm reflecting on is saying they've beaten Norwich in recent weeks, who've been the form team in the second half of the season. They've beaten Coventry, who are the runaway league leaders. They look at the moment the best side in the league that we've seen, and if they'd had that reset, if you like, in August rather than in December, you wonder where they might be now.
Yeah, 100%. I think they'd have been really pushing Cov definitely at the top of that level, not even higher.
I just think you look at Will Still's sort of style of play, and it was so passive and just so slow in moments, whereas you look at what Eckert wants to do, and like I said, he wants to be different. He wants to obviously be direct primarily, but he's also not afraid to change that up and react to the opposition. And I just think that they needed that bit of energy. When you look at the players they have at their disposal, it was Will Still in some ways was just holding them back a little bit, and just that ability to bring things back to basics through Eckert and just say, do you know what, I trust you. You can go play. You are good enough. You should be at the top of this championship, never mind where they were when he came in.
I tell you what, if he doesn't get them up this year, I think he could have a few suitors in the summer, couldn't he? I think he's making a name for himself very quickly, Tonda Eckert, in his first managerial position as a number one. Done his time youth coaching, started out as a football analyst, and my goodness, he's making a good job of managing Southampton right now. Let's have a look at the statistics from tonight's game and pick over where this game was lost for Wrexham. As Mia says, they had some good phases through the 90, but they came up against a side with plenty of punch and who they struggled to deal with. A few defensive lapses costing them dear. Wrexham actually enjoying the bulk of possession in the game and competitive in terms of total shots, 16-11. But look at those Southampton shots on target, 9 from 16, hitting the target in over half of those, just 2 on target out of 11 for Wrexham. 4 corners to 3 in Southampton's favour. Let's have a look at the defensive breakdown tonight. It certainly was a tough night for Wrexham's defence. Phil Parkinson has stayed loyal to that back three and Arthur Okonkwo in goal for many weeks. There'll be challenges perhaps for that in the time to come as Phil looks to unpick where that one might have been tightened tonight. Wrexham with more tackles won, Southampton edging the interceptions, more clearances required perhaps unexpectedly for Wrexham this evening. Wrexham having the better of the aerial duels, but ultimately not having the better of the scoreline as they lose this game by 5 goals to 1 here at the racecourse. This evening, it's been a difficult night for the Wrexham fans, for the players and for the management. Not often we've seen Wrexham beaten so comprehensively at home, but Thank you very much, Phil Parkinson, for coming down to see us quickly after full time. How do you break that one down, Phil?
Yeah, difficult really. It's obviously a bit raw, such a big game for us tonight, and to find ourselves 2 down and 2 really disappointing goals, soft goals. We've got to be hard at the score against that, and then we got back in it and had a really good spell, I felt, up to half time and started to play with belief. And then in the second half we started okay, but the third goal absolutely knocked the stuffing out of us, and it was a period of where we had comfortable possession, and then we put ourselves under pressure with a loose pass, and players of the quality Southampton have got are going to take those chances.
When you look across that Southampton performance tonight, Phil, and look at what they did well, where were the key areas you think where they came out on top of your side?
Well, obviously they've got very good players, and the chances we presented to them, they punished us, and it knocked us on our heels. Our intensity level, for whatever reason, wasn't quite there at the start. Well, definitely wasn't there at the start. And if you don't have that physicality and tenacity in our defending on the set play, even Ross Stewart's goal, it's a free header, even though he's obviously very good. Then it's going to be a hard night, and as a team, it is a night of getting back to basics for us. We've picked a very attacking lineup because we felt we could cause them problems, but as a team and a whole team, we did defend well enough tonight.
You mentioned, Phil, that after half time you were on the front foot, you were starting to ask questions. But clearly those 2 early defensive lapses have cost you. They've set the context really for the game. I'm guessing a number of fans will be reflecting and saying we seem to be struggling at the moment to put together a strong first half, and we're then having to change gear at half time and chase a game a bit. Yeah. What do you put that down to, and how can you improve that?
Yeah, it's very difficult to put my finger on that, because the goals really are just dealing with things in and around the box. We had enough bodies around the first one, and the second one is broke to the lads on the edge of the box, and we haven't got a block on it. It's in the back of the net, and I think any team who then concedes, there's going to be an element of flatness. But I thought we got ourselves into the game well and got going and responded really well. But of course, 2 goals down at West Brom and 2 today. It's not a good picture in those first halves, and we need to find a way to make sure that we're right at the levels we need to be right from the first whistle.
Early in the season at the start, perhaps unsurprisingly with a team that had a lot of new faces, the defence was conceding more goals than you would be ideally looking for. You then were able to tighten that and then become more offensively minded. As you look now at this 5-game run-in and potentially the playoffs that follow it, how will you mix up the training messages and where you put focus to make sure that defensive tightness returns but not losing some of that attacking intent which you've built through the season? Yeah,
I mean, it's a perfect scenario, isn't it, to tighten up defensively without losing any of the attacking intent, because we've looked like we can score all season, but as a team it's getting back to basics, and we need to be harder to play to score against than we were tonight. It's as simple as that. Those goals are too easy, and listen, if you give a good team like Southampton a 2-goal start, it's always going to be a tough night. So as a team, and myself, we've all got to look closely at ourselves as we go into the weekend, and we've got to have a more resilient performance down at Birmingham on Sunday.
Does the late international break in the season, do you think, play any part, Phil, in taking, I think we had 6 players away on international duty? Do you think that affects anything in terms of training and robustness? No, not at all. I'm not going to use that as an excuse for tonight. Listen, Southampton are a team full of confidence, you can see that, but equally we've been on a good run ourselves, and they've got very good players who probably, if they'd got themselves going early in the season, they'd be a top 2 team. So we've got to respect that as well, but we're not using the international break as an excuse at all. We just didn't make it difficult for them enough tonight. We've played some good teams here, then at home and away this season. Think of all the performances we've had, and we've had a resilience and a toughness about us. Of course, with the way we set up at times, there can be the periods where you come under pressure on the counter, but as the season's gone on, we've got better in defending in those moments. But the third goal, I think, is the one which is a real crushing blow for us, because we know we've got a belief to come back in games if we're behind,
and I felt we would get a good foothold in that second half, and from absolutely nowhere the balls ended up in the back of our net.
And if Kiefer Moore's header goes in at 3-1, it's back to 3-2. The crowd are up for it. It might have been a different outcome, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, I think it's football's about restricting the opposition chances, like we didn't do tonight. But when you get them yourself, it's obviously about taking them, like Josh did with a brilliant finish. So yeah, we've got to readdress the balance. That's for certain. And we need to have a good look at that before the weekend.
5 games to go, though, and still everything to play for and everything in your hands still.
Yeah, I think we've got to just make sure this game doesn't define us. We've had a setback tonight against a very good side. We can do a lot better, but it's not going to define us tonight. We've got to regroup, as we've done many times, and find the solutions to where we are after tonight. And we'll have a long, hard look. We're in training tomorrow, and that's not because we've got beat. It was a scheduled training day, but as a staff, we need to look long and hard and pick a team which is ready to go to St Andrews and put in a performance where it's hard off the opposition to play and hard off the opposition to score.
Phil, thanks so much for coming out tonight and being so honest with us. Really appreciate your time. Wrexham manager Phil Parkinson giving his reflections on a tough night for him and his players here at the Stoke Kairos, coming up against a Southampton team bang in form, playing with lots of confidence. Let's have a look at where that leaves the Sky Bet Championship table this evening, with 5 games left for Wrexham to try and drive themselves into the playoffs and give themselves that 1 in 4 chance of a place in the promised land of the Premier League. So Wrexham there in 7th place on 41 points. Southampton leapfrog them into 6th. They've also got a game in hand. They are really a team on the run at the moment. You'd feel that perhaps Hull, 4 points ahead, are Wrexham's best hope of trying to overhaul one of the teams in front of them. Southampton don't look a team at the moment, unless they have a sudden reversal in form, who are likely to cough up too many points in the run-in. They will, of course, have that FA Cup semi-final ahead against Manchester City, which may prove a distraction or may not in the remaining weeks of the season. It will certainly bump their penultimate league game to a midweek fixture, just adding another dimension when it gets to the real nitty-gritty at the end of the season. But we know, and we've seen many times, Wrexham's bounce-back ability is very strong. You have to go back a long way to find 2 consecutive league losses against this side's ledger, and Southampton tonight were too good. Birmingham City, though, a team who have struggled for form recently, come next on Sunday at St Andrews, and Phil clearly will be looking for a reaction from his players in that particular fixture. There we can see Birmingham sitting in 16th place in the table. They are all but mathematically safe from the drop, and those are the kind of games you want, Mia, aren't they, at this stage in the season? Teams with nothing to play for.
Yeah, you say that, but honestly, I don't.
Apart from pride.
I don't know if you do. I watched Middlesbrough versus Swansea on yesterday, and I tell you what, I thought Swansea were playing as if they had playoffs in their sights. I thought they were really impressive against the Middlesbrough side, who we know are desperate for those points to try and get back into those automatics. So I really don't think you can put it down to anything like that, to be honest. Obviously, in some ways it probably is better, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But I think you've just got to let Southampton go now. I think they've gone, to be honest. And
playoff
I think
bankers.
Yeah, and I think it is Hull who you've just got to hope that you can catch, and hope that you don't look back at that game post Chelsea as the one that got away in some ways, because we felt a bit down after that one, especially off the back of the Chelsea Cup defeat as well. And it is that a massive sort of 6-pointer in some ways, that obviously they've got 6 points over us this season, and yeah, but there's a lot of games still left to play, and we've been in this position before. I go back to the National League days. It was 7th of April again. I remember it because it was my dad's birthday away at Halifax.
Yeah.
That's the one. And I remember sort of atmosphere being very low, very down. People thinking, I think that might be it. And it wasn't. So.
And again, Andy, coming back to last season, a very flat performance at Reading, a little bit earlier. I mean, it wasn't quite so late in the run, and beaten 2-0, really didn't show anything.
Yeah.
And then 7 wins, 3 draws.
There was one here as well, wasn't there? A draw. Bristol Rovers.
Yeah,
we drew. That's our chance gone.
The difference, I guess, this time is there's less games to go, isn't there, to build the momentum and
there's
the
a gap
bank.
now. One game can't switch it. It's 4 points now between us and Hull. It's a bit of a blow to our goal difference as well today, which we were better than Hull's, and it's now same. I think Phil Parkinson will be stewing over that tonight, and he'll be drawing on all of his experience for tomorrow, because he's saying the lads are in, they'll be low. They'll be lower than a snake's belly, just off the back of the performance. And it's tricky to get yourself up, but he'll draw on all his experience to go in there, and he's going to be the one with his staff that are going to have to lift this group now and go, right, no, we've still got 5 to play and we are still in it. Nobody believed at the start of the season that we would be around about where we are now, and we have given ourselves a chance. Don't be just sitting back and going, oh, never mind, it's hard times. No, we are going front foot for the last 5, and we're going to give it everything. And if it's not good enough at the end of the season, that's fine, but we're not going to leave it with 5 games to go.
And that sense of perspective, Andy, I think is really important, isn't it? Because at the start of the season, when we were here for the opening home game against West Brom, the talk was, well, if we go really well, we might better finish mid-table, maybe top 10. And because, of course, Wrexham have been in and around the playoff places and in the top 6 for quite some time, there's almost become a bit of an expectation to say, well, we're heading for the playoffs. But a first year at championship level, off back-to-back-to-back, to be 7th in this position, I think most fans on the opening day, if you'd have offered them that, would have ripped your hand off.
Yeah, with half the squad change as well that they had, to do that and evolve that throughout a season, from going from a bit more direct, if you like, in the last 2 divisions to playing some really attractive quality football and changing your formation and working with that. And that's a lot of stuff to do in a year, and to be competing and winning games of football. I think it's a remarkable job, but I don't think we're finished. I think there's so many twists and turns to go yet. I think we're going to have a look at the games that other teams and we've got to come. There's some tricky ones out there for both sets of teams. Ours is difficult, but we've always stood up and been counted in those games. Tonight was hard, all right, but we put that behind us straight away. That's what Phil Parks is very, very good at, is reacting, reflecting, putting it behind us, and we go again. And they'll do that, I'm sure, with that game tonight.
Well, let's do as Andy says then and have a look at Wrexham's remaining fixtures, just to remind ourselves of the road ahead to the end of the regular season, which may, of course, also continue into May. So Birmingham City, that's this Sunday, 12 noon at St Andrews. Old adversaries, the Blues, lie in wait next. Then a home game against Stoke, who started the season so brightly but have fizzled away significantly over the months. That's the next game here, and the next match day live, Saturday the 18th of April, 3 o'clock kickoff. Then down to Oxford United, fighting for their lives at the wrong end of the table the Tuesday after that. Then Coventry, who may well be automatically promoted mathematically by then, which can be a mixed blessing, of course. On the one side of the argument, a team takes its foot off the gas, but on the other, there's a freedom amongst the players that can make them very dangerous indeed. So always hard to know how that might play through. And then the final day, 2nd of May, at home to Middlesbrough, who were sitting right on Coventry's heels for much of the season, but have stumbled a bit of late, dropping points, and now are not the favourites to take second spot. Ipswich taking that position at the moment, and with games in hand. But Coventry and Middlesbrough as a final 2, Mia, at least on paper, looking a pretty stiff test off the back of a team who probably will not be mathematically relegated and will be desperate to make things as hard as possible coming before. Not the easiest run in.
No, but I'd rather play every single one of them than Southampton again. So, I prefer that. But yeah, obviously you look at those last 2, and that Middlesbrough one could be unbelievable if it's still is as tight as it is at the moment. But that Coventry one as well. They probably will have been sort of crowned as champions by them, but that could be the day that they're lifting the trophy. Exactly that, and you want to be lifting the trophy on the same day you're winning as well. The women's team will tell you that. Obviously, they didn't manage that on Sunday, and they were quite disappointed about that from what I've heard. But yeah, it just sets itself up again, like you say, the Oxford away one as well, fighting for their lives. So these are the games you want it to be exciting at this point of the season, and it certainly is.
And in the conversation with Phil there, Andy, very much a kind of back to basics message from him defensively to get tighter. It almost feels we've kind of gone full circle in the season, and the season has sort of reset again tonight. It's Southampton again, like it was on the opening day. It was a leaky defence like it was in the first few weeks. It was an open game, and we were kind of feeling like we were trying to play catch up a little bit until we caught our rhythm, which obviously we have over the last few months. So I guess for Phil, almost there's a bit of a kind of mini season ahead now of 5 games to try and, as you say, reset from tonight's defeat and go, well, hang on, we fixed this once and we know the rhythms of this league to be able to go on a run now that could take us into the top 6.
Yeah, and he's picked the same back three for a long, long time now.
Correct.
It's since before Christmas that we were playing with these 3, and I don't think they've missed a game since. And so are we looking at that as a possibility, as a problem? Because that should really galvanise you as relationships and understanding between you. But in the last few games we've conceded goals, and we've conceded poor goals as well. And so he'll be looking at why that's happening. Is it the 3? Is it something to do with the 3? Does Max need a rest?
Is it not having Matty James there to sweep up? Is it the
Is it
absence
two
of
in
having
front
him?
that are allowing too many balls into the box? I think possibly that is huge for us, but not just without the ball, where they sit in front and protect and put out fires around them. But when we do get the ball back, we're in control of the game, and we're not constantly chasing over our shoulder. We're not constantly giving it back like we were a little bit in the first 20 minutes here today. Poor quality up to Kiefer today. And so I think that, as a culmination, is really played havoc with, for me, for about 5 or 6 games now, where we've looked vulnerable and we're getting away with it and we're hanging in games and we're winning. We've won a couple of games in there where maybe we didn't deserve to, but we're conceding goals and we're conceding chances. 16 chances today on our goal, 9 on target. You're going to do well to keep a clean sheet off the back of that.
Yeah, too open. Quick reminder, folks, of a new competition we launched tonight, pre-match on Match Day Live. You have until midnight on Friday, April the 17th. When Friday, April the 17th turns into Saturday, April the 18th, then the opportunity to enter will have evaded you, so don't miss the boat. You have the chance to win a boxed Wrexham AFC Legends shirt signed by Mickey Thomas. It's a lovely prize to win. We've got 2 of these to give away, and you can enter the competition by scanning the QR code, which is going to appear on screen very shortly indeed. That will take you to the page where you can enter. You need to nominate your 3 favourite pieces of merchandise, fill in the form and submit it. All the terms and conditions are also on that page, so you can see them there in full. You need to be 18 years or over to enter this competition. The winners will be selected at random, and we will announce them in Matchday Live for the Stoke City game on the 18th of April. So why don't you have a go and try and win this beautiful item. We did showcase it earlier in the show, so if you want to have a look at it, wind back to the pre-match segment and have a look at the shirt in all its glory. It's really a lovely prize to win. So follow that QR code, get your entry in, pick your favourite 3 pieces of Wrexham merchandise, and who knows, you could be a winner. Full terms and conditions, as I said, on the QR code, and make sure you get your entry in before midnight on Friday, April the 17th. Good luck. So, St Andrews next then, Mia, on Sunday. Old adversaries, we've met them a few times, we've thrown a few punches. We've also seen Phil Parkinson's incredible ability to bounce back from a defeat. Are you confident that going to St Andrews, this will seem a very different proposition for Wrexham to face, and also that we'll see a very different outcome?
Yeah, I think you have to be. You know, all you have to do is look back and see that this team always respond, and, you know, not to jinx things, but you tend to then expect that, and, you know, that's full credit to those players and those staff, because they've, you know, instilled that not just with these players now, but players that have gone by, you know, in the past as well. That was just something in them that you, like I say, you just come to expect. But listen, St Andrews is always a difficult place to go. Obviously, Birmingham haven't had the season they probably thought they were going to have under Chris Davis, and, you know, he's under quite a bit of pressure, I'd say, at the moment. I think they probably had higher expectations, you know, especially off the back of a record-breaking season last season in League One. They probably thought they had Wrexham a little bit coming into the Championship, you know, just with how many points they finished ahead of us, but that hasn't been the case. But they still have, you know, a number of dangerous players. I think for me, Vincente, someone I've watched a few times now, watched him in the FA Cup a few weeks ago, and really impressive, really, you know, really talented player, a bit similar to Cienzo, who came on, I personally think, in that second half. So interesting to see how we deal with him. But, you know, it's going to be another one. You know, obviously early kickoff, does that change the atmosphere a little bit? I think not. I think, you know, those Birmingham fans are always fairly loud.
Andy, 5 games to go for Wrexham to give themselves a more than even chance of getting into the playoffs. How many points do you think they're going to need to get? More than 10?
Great. Who knows, really? We've got to try and somehow get in contact with Hull now with 4 games. Can they draw, we win, and that puts us right back in it. I think Birmingham, like you were saying, have not been in the best of forms, under pressure down there. It's a great opportunity for us to go and just be what we are normally, which is really on the front foot, really aggressive with our press, and just go about our play like we have done and show people that it isn't just a flash in the pan. I don't think there'd be many people at the start of this season would have said that we'd be ahead of Birmingham off the back of last season, how that went. And so we have to take massive pride in the way that we have been so far this season in the 41 games we've played. So let's go back and let's just not leave anything in the change room. Let's go out and throw it out the kitchen sink at them and see what happens, because that way you can stand, look in the mirror and go, I've given it everything. We're just maybe a little bit off this season with so many changes, but at least we gave it everything.
Andy Meir, thank you very much. Safe travels to St Andrews on Saturday. Enjoy the game, and here's hoping. Andy Morell and Mia Roberts, as ever, joining me on Matchday Live this evening. An evening when Wrexham were brought down to earth by an informed Southampton side. Tom de Eckert's team have been the team rising up through the Championship in the last few weeks, bloodying the noses of Premier League big boys as well in the FA Cup. And tonight they just had too much threat and too much quality for Wrexham to handle. Will there be changes in personnel or in system? Phil Parkinson, Steve Parkin and the coaching staff with much to ponder ahead of the trip to St Andrews on Sunday. But with 15 points still up for grabs, Wrexham very much have a large chunk of their destiny in their own hands still this season. If they can find a winning run like we've seen in many seasons before, as back-to-back promotions have been secured, then there may yet be fun in the playoffs ahead. We shall see. But tonight it was very much about the Saints. They went marching in and marching on as they head seemingly inexorably for the Championship playoffs. Thanks for joining us tonight. Diolch yn wylio. We'll see you for Stoke on the 18th. Good night.